Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevaya Bhagavatit-Mashrote Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki. So, continuing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Prayers by Prahlad Maharaj. We're on verse 17.
Just double check.
We're at 17.
We're verse 18.
We're on verse 18. 7, 9, 18. Soham priyasya suridaf paradevakaya lila kastava nrusingha virinchakita anjasti parvyanugranam guna vipramukto durganite padayugalaya hamsa sangaha. Transition and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. True Bhakti.
Yeah.
O my Lord Nrsingadev, by engaging in your transcendental loving service, in the association of devotees who are liberated souls, Hamsas, I shall become completely uncontaminated by the association of the three modes of material nature and be able to chant your glories of your Lordship, who are so dear to me. I shall chant your glories following exactly in the footsteps of Lord Brahma and his disciplic succession. In this way, I shall undoubtedly be able to cross the ocean of nescience. Purport. A devotee's life and duty are very well explained herein. As soon as a devotee can chant the holy name and glories of the Supreme Lord, he certainly comes to the liberated position. Attachment for glorifying the Lord by hearing and chanting the holy name and activities of the Lord, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, certainly brings one to the position where material contamination is absent. One should chant the bona fide songs received from the disciplic succession. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the chanting is powerful when one follows the disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarashrayo viduhu. Manufacturing many ways of chanting will never be effective. However, chanting the song or the narration left by the previous acharyas, Mahajanu Yenigata Sapanta, is extremely effective, and this process is very easy. Therefore, in this verse, Prahlada Maharaj uses the word anjaha, easily. Accepting the thoughts of exalted authorities through disciplic succession is certainly much easier than the method of mental speculation, by which one tries to invent some means to understand the absolute truth. The best process is to accept the instructions of the previous acharyas and follow them. Then God realization and self-realization become extremely easy. By following this easy method, one is liberated from the contamination of the material modes of nature. And thus one can certainly cross the ocean of nescience, in which there are many miserable conditions. By following the footsteps of the great acharyas, one associates with the hamsas or paramahamsas, those who are completely freed from material contamination. Indeed, by following the instructions of the acharyas, one is always freed from all material contamination, and thus one's life becomes successful, for one reaches the goal of life. This material world is miserable regardless of one's standard of life. Of this there is no doubt. Attempts to mitigate miseries of material existence by material methods will never be successful. One must take to Krishna consciousness to become really happy. Otherwise, happiness is impossible. One might say that becoming advanced in spiritual life also involves tapasya, voluntary acceptance of some inconvenience. However, such inconvenience is not as dangerous as material attempts to mitigate all miseries. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Shri Krishna Prishna Guru Shri Bhakti Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauramani Pracharane Nirvishesham Divari Paschati Desha Tarane Hare Krishna. So in last week's verse, we heard about Prahlad's conviction that the attempt to get free from miseries, any such remedies in the material world are more miserable than the miseries themselves. And he's praying for service. He's praying for service because he understands that that's the way out of as Prabhupada puts it, material miseries, attempts to mitigate the miseries of material existence by material methods will never be successful. So there's more of an elaboration here on the nature of service, the nature of the Bhakti Yoga process, that it comes down in parampara. Parampara literally means one after another. There is a following. There is a way of which we follow. And, there's this word sampradaya. We're in the Brahma-Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Sampradaya is translated as lineage, right? The word sampradaya, one of its meanings is like a bequeathment. Bequeathment is something that you receive, right, from those who are older, more established than your predecessors. They're giving you a gift. Sampradaya means like the complete gift, right? So in spiritual life, we're very much repeatedly and clearly advised to take shelter of devotees because we don't want to waste time. Time is extremely valuable. And it's a matter of, at the very least, efficiency. Prabhupada points out. The best process to accept the instruction of the previous acharyas is to follow them. Then God realization and self-realization become extremely easy. Otherwise, there's just so much time wasted. Because why would we have to feel like we need to reinvent the wheel? And effectively, in spiritual life, we're given living guides. We're given the writings and the connections to the teachings of those who are no longer on the planet but are still functioning as guides. And we're given maps in the forms of Shastra. And in this way, spiritual life is very easy. In fact, there's a really nice verse in the Tepcat I'm going to look up for you. And so I asked the question of why would anybody not take shelter in this way? And one of the answers is pride. Because one can feel like, well, I want to do it myself. I want to figure it out myself. And this kind of pride is very subtle. It's not a kind of pride that it's generally, it doesn't have to be found in the conscious mind because it's coming from the false ego, right? If you ask somebody to explain why they don't want to follow someone else, they may not even be able to give you a clear answer. I don't want to do that. Okay, right? Sometimes people come into the association of devotees and they become uncomfortable and they can't really express why. Sometimes devotees get criticized for the way that they follow their teachers. Oh, you shouldn't follow like this, you should follow like that. Right? This is real Hinduism, this is real spirituality, and people don't necessarily have the ability to find within themselves what is actually troubling them. On the egoistic level, one of the challenges that the conditioned soul has is that it really burns us to admit that we can't figure it out on our own. And when it comes right down to it, the unvarnished truth of the conditioned soul's existence and their existential situation is really embarrassing for somebody who has got a chip in the gap. They're making a living, in the world, just existentially. They're just like their whole existence is hinged on the idea of, yeah, I stand on my own 2 feet. And the reality is we don't. We can't even exist for more than a few seconds without oxygen being provided for us. We're completely dependent at every moment, in every way, and not just in our conditioned state. In our liberated state, whether we're merged into Brahman, if we're impersonalistically inclined, or we're serving Krishna, we're completely dependent. That's who we are. Our problem isn't that we are that. Our problem is that we are sick of that. We resist that. We have a problem with self-acceptance. We're sickened by the idea of being dependent on Krishna. It bothers us. And so there can be like a way in which our hackles raise, you know? It just bothers us. It gets under our skin. And so that's something to be addressed. But in reality, as anybody who's ever been lost will tell you, guides and writings and maps are the most valuable thing. Why would anybody throw them away? So this principle is brought up in the 10th canto in the prayers by the demigods for Lord Krishna in the womb. Krishna is going to appear. He's in Devaki's womb, and the demigods with their vision can understand what's going to happen, who's coming. And they're offering prayers. So Devaki's there. She's very troubled because she's in a prison under the construction and guidance of her own demoniac brother, Kamsa. Her and her husband, Vasudeva, are in prison, and she doesn't know what's going to happen. She's worried for her child. But the demigods are trying to console her, and they're offering these beautiful prayers. And in this chapter 10 to 30, it's a very nice verse. Tvayam bujaksha kila satvatami samatanave shita chetasaike tvatpada putena mahatkartena kurvanti bovasapidam kvaptim. O lotus-eyed Lord, they're praying to him in the womb. By concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which are the reservoir of all existence, and by accepting those lotus feet as the boat by which to cross the ocean of nescience, one follows in the footsteps of Mahajanas. Mahajana means great persons. Prabhupada puts in brackets here, great saints, sages, and devotees. By this simple process, one can cross the ocean of nescience as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. Following in the footsteps. It's an analogy that if you're walking and you're trying to cross over an ocean, good luck. But if you're following the footsteps of the devotees, that ocean shrinks to the size of the water containing the hoofprint of a calf. About this big. Calves are not big. You can't drown that, even if you try. And the next verse is also really beautiful. Swayam smatirya sudushtaram pyuman varnavam Pimam ataprasavrida Vatpadam Horava Nam Atrate Nidhayata Saranugraho Pavan. O Lord, who resemble the shining sun, you are always ready to fulfill the desire of your devotee. And therefore, you're known as a desire tree, Vancha Kalpataru. When acharyas completely take shelter under your lotus feet in order to cross the fierce ocean of nescience, they leave behind on earth the method by which they cross. And because you are very merciful to your other devotees, you accept this method to help them. Right? Prabhupada writes in the purport, this statement reveals how the merciful acharyas and the merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead together help the serious devotee who wants to return home back to Godhead. So the acharya means one who teaches by example. That's what acharya means. So they follow the example, and they give you that through their example, their precept, which means what they do and what they say. And both are important. Sri Haridasa Thakur is glorified in Chaitanya Charitamrita for being a pure devotee in his action and in his words. And it's said some devotees are pure in their actions, but not in their words. Some devotees, they explain and express purely, but they're not following purely yet, but you're doing both. You're talking about chanting Hare Krishna constantly, and that's all you do. You're chanting purely. Qualitatively and quantitatively, you're just completely absorbing the holy name, and you ask everyone else to do that. That's an acharya. That's why he's called the Nama Acharya, the acharya of the holy name. Mahaprabhu said, you're fit to teach everybody. Although he was born in a Muslim family, although he was an outcast in all social standing, he was fit to be an Acharya of the Holy Name because of his conduct and because of his teaching. And so that's an Acharya. And Acharya also means that they have an intimate relationship with the process because they're very interested in helping others to advance. They're not just interested in helping themselves to advance. And out of compassion for them, out of love for them, Krishna, out of love for his pure devotee, accepts the adjustments and considerations of the pure devotee, because the pure devotee has no desire, has no desire to water down the process, to cheapen it, to make anything the goal except for pure love. And so they're very interested in helping people to get to that. And they're also very attentive to time, place, and circumstance, that without changing the principle, without changing the fundamental reality of where we're going, who we are, what our result is, how can we get people from where they're at with their specific situation to come to them? That's what an Acharya does. In Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 1, purport, Prabhupada talks about the meaning of realization, which is to not come up with anything outside of the fundamental truth of something, but also to be able to present it interestingly in a way that catches the attention of someone according to their time, place, and circumstance. That's what realization means. That's what Acharyas do. Srila Prabhupada came to North America in 1965. He was deeply interested, and he was meditating, thinking very deeply for years how to bring people out of this situation in this time, right? With his knowledge of what was going on and his vision based on the Bhagavatam and his inner realization from Krishna of where things are going to go, how can we help people to practice bhakti here, right? So because of that deep realization and that deep desire to help, Prabhupada was incredibly empowered in a way that's actually remarkable, even in a sampradaya. We don't find, like the six Goswamis or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, necessarily giving specific instruction for 20th, 21st centuries and beyond so much. They laid the groundwork for that. They give some, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says some things, but Prabhupada, he has such a very specific duty, and the followers of Prabhupada continue that duty by sharing what Prabhupada gave and also continuing to update it. We're using an internet connection, something that wasn't invented when Prabhupada was on the planet. And why are we doing that? Because Prabhupada's followers are saying, we're really sure Srila Prabhupada would want to use this in Krishna service. Here are some ways to do that. And so we actually have very, very recent guidance from Srila Prabhupada and his followers. And we're asked to also come to the point of functioning with some amount of being independently thoughtful. And that only happens if we actually surrender ourselves to the process. The conditioned soul wants to be independently thoughtful right away. I want to figure it out, right? What we don't realize or don't want to realize is that we're not figuring anything out. Generally, people are just following whatever they've been taught. Oh, my mom and dad taught me to do this, so it's right. Oh, I figured out once that, I can do this, and so it seems to make sense, so I do it. This is just local culture. It's not actually absolute truth. People, in general, humans suffer from the tendency to generalize local culture to absolute truth. Because this is my last name, or my parents told it, or I don't even know why I do it. It's just the way I do it. It's the way I've been taught to do it. Therefore, it must be what's true, capital T. And very rarely is that the case, because people don't really examine their assumptions, examine their priors. I think this is what makes sense, but have I actually really tested it? Has anyone really explained it to me? No. Generally, we do things for reasons that are not explained. They're just demonstrated. People do things and we model ourselves after them, right? It's quite unconscious, right? In fact, if we're not careful, we can live our whole life like that. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living. Why? Because we'll just end up doing whatever is done around us for reasons we could never explain. I go to school because everyone tells me to go. No, they don't even tell me to just do it. I go to school because that's what everyone else does. I get a job because that's what everyone else does. I make money because that's what everyone else does. And I spend it on the things that everyone else spends it on. I have the same addictions, the same desires as everyone else. And it's very comfortable. It's very comfortable. That's actually the embarrassing reality of life in the conditioned state of mind, is that nobody has any original ideas. And if they try to have original ideas, they just churn the modes of nature and they come up with something that's been come up with before, you know? I remember in the 90s when 70s fashion became cool again. It's like, oh, it's retro. Yeah. Because the fashion designers can't come up with anything new. They're just sitting around like churning. I'm sorry, but there's only so many things you could do. If you look at like footage of the MetLife Gala, it's a joke what people come up with that consider clothing. It's like you have to kind of create a name for yourself. So, oh yeah, this is very original. Like, yeah, no, it's not. It's just silly. Or it's reinventing what has already been done before. This is a conditioned soul's situation. So if we stop trying to do that and we examine our life and realize, like, I don't have the answers. I don't know what the best way of doing things. And you know what? My parents don't either. And neither does my political leader, neither does my teacher here, this, that, the other. You have to actually find someone who's demonstrating something of value. And bhakti begins when you have some faith in a devotee that, oh, whatever else I can say, whatever else I know or don't know, this person is got a line on something. And so I appreciate them. And adau shraddha. Bhakti begins with shraddha. There's some sense of faith. Okay? I have some confidence here. Adau shraddha tata sadhu sangha, then you associate it to bhajana kriya, then you take up a practice. Why do you take up a practice? Because somebody says you can do this. You have permission. I don't think I can. No, you can. Believe me. I believe in you. I'm not sure if I have enough time. You have enough time. Here's how you can have enough time. Here's how you organize your life. Okay. All these doubts, all this that's all from the material. Like all the reasons why we can't chant Hare Krishna. This isn't for me. I don't belong. I'm not Hindu. I'm not Indian. I'm not pure enough. I'm not a man. I'm not straight. I'm not this. I'm not that. I don't belong. You know, all this imposter syndrome. It's like as soon as you have faith in a devotee, then you have a line to get past all that. If you don't have faith in a devotee, you don't have that line. You're stuck. You're on an island with yourself and your own mind and your conditioning. And good luck. You will go wherever you're supposed to go according to your karma. Krishna said to Arjuna, I'm going to level with you, bro. You're going to fight. You say you're not going to fight, but if you don't fight for me, I'll turn around and I'll come back and you'll be fighting for someone else. That's what you're made for. You can't sit around and find injustice in the world and not fight. That's who you are. That's your karma. That's what you're made for. That's how you're wired. You can either do it in service or not do it in service. And if you want to know how to do it in service, you can listen to me because I'm going to tell you. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. If you don't want to do it in service, you've got this whole ugly situation in front of you. That's what you have to face. The ugly reality of the material world. So whether we're Arjuna, who's a pure devotee actually, or anyone else, we have our tendencies. And if we're alone with them, we will be dominated by them. There's no question of if. There's just a question of when. To what degree. Right? That's it. And so we don't want to be an island. We want to actually take some influence. And that's what bhakti begins with, is just taking influence. And the more we take influence, the more we realize, like, damn, there's some really good ideas that these devotees have. I didn't come up with this. You know, I promise you, I would never have invented the idea of waking up early in the morning and chanting mantras. Like, I remember the first time I went to Mangalarti, I was amazed that there was a world that existed at 4:30 in the morning. I literally felt like I was on another planet walking into the temple. I was like, whoa. Because I was experiencing life at 4:30 in the morning. I got enough sleep, but there's just something about the Brahma Muhurta, right? Nobody ever taught me that. No one ever said, listen, buddy, here's the thing that you can know about the material world. Like, if you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and clean yourself up, you actually have the opportunity to use your mind in a way you can never do at any other time of day. They didn't have to tell me about God to tell me that. It's just a material thing. Anybody can test that themselves right now. Well, not right now, unless you're west of us and you're in a different time zone. But you can test it out at your earliest convenience. And I had to realize, okay, this is different. This is a different vibe. And then, yeah, there's chanting mantras and deities and incense burning and offering, all these things that I would never have guessed. I never would have guessed. And honestly, we find that sometimes people who are even closer to the tradition, they have more work to do in letting go of their assumptions because they think they already know. Oh yes, I already know Krishna. Sometimes you find people like, here's Bhagavad Gita. Oh, I know Bhagavad Gita. Do you read Bhagavad Gita? No. Well, my grandmother told me about it. Read it, right? No, I don't. But I know it's very good. Because when someone thinks they know something, then they think they're done. Right? As if you're a student and you think, I'm done, I'm good. Now I'm full. That's when you're done. As soon as you don't say that, you're not done. But as soon as you say, I'm done, then you're done. Put a cap on that bottle, nothing else can get in. So we want to remain students. We want to remain beholden to our teachers. We want to remain dependent. We want to remain, Prabhupada said, you should always feel yourself a fool in front of your spiritual master. Doesn't mean behave like a fool. It means that when you're around someone more advanced than you, like really get in touch with the fact that I don't know what I'm doing. This person is so many million steps ahead of me. And that's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. It's visceral. I feel it around my Guru Maharaj. Like, boy, what have I been thinking? Like, think I have any idea? I'm in the room with somebody who actually is just out of their own grace helping me, right? And you can access that at any time. It requires bypassing the false ego and sinking into the real ego of like, I'm just a servant. I'm a servant of this person. I'm a servant of this person's person, their teachers. In fact, when it develops, I'm a servant of the other devotees. Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, his guru, Shri Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj, gave him the instruction to never accept disciples. Right? Never accept disciples and never move into the city. And he lived in Calcutta primarily, and he became a world acharya. But his justification for that was that wherever I go, I live in a temple. I do not live in the city. I refuse to live in the city. I live in Krishna's home. And I've not accepted any disciples. I've accepted that they are all my guru. I see my disciples as my own guru. And you can't fake that kind of realization. It'll show pretty quickly if you do. He had a deep realization that anyone who functions as my disciple, they're actually just Krishna sending them to be my guru. And that's incredible. Right? That's an incredible thing. And that's what makes him our guru, our great-grandfather guru. Prabhupada felt the same way. Our own gurus, disciples of Prabhupada, who are functioning as very advanced devotees, they feel the same way. I have had my guru like pay obeisances to me. It's really embarrassing, and it's just, that's what's in their heart. That's what's in their heart. And we want to see that, and we want to take that in for ourselves. Like, oh yeah, I should be like that. Right? 11th Canto Bhagavatam says that Krishna says in the 11th Canto to Uddhava that one of the ways, and a highly authorized way to come to me, is to see me in everything and to pay obeisances even to a dog. Why? Because you see that the presence of the divine is within that dog. And I remember reading that with my Guru Maharaj at Govardhan during Karti, because we were doing a full reading of the 11th Canto. I highly recommend it, by the way. It'll change your life. Read the 11th Canto all the way through. It's unbelievable. And we got that verse, and we were all astonished. After our reflection period, we're all like, amazing verse. Then we went the next day for a parikrama of Govardhan Hill. And as we got to Uddhava Kund, right, where Uddhava is glorified, we get there and there's a dog. And the dog joins our party. And he won't leave. And he's joining us. And Guru Maharaj said, that's it. This is the dog. And he turned around and paid obeisance to the dog. And the dog looked, I swear to God, looked surprised. Like, because no one ever did that. Because who treats a dog like that? And we all followed suit. We all paid obeisance to the dog. And I felt something. Oh yeah, the dogs. Right? And what to speak of a dog? There's a dog in Vrindavan. He's going to live in Vrindavan. He's going to die in Vrindavan. I'm not going to die in Vrindavan unless Krishna is really kind to me. This dog is going to die in Vrindavan no matter what. This is a Vrindavan resident. I should be paying obeisance to all of them. And it's because of that verse. And it's that realization that the Acharya showed. Is like, don't think yourself anything better than even a dog. This dog is like living on scraps, is begging you for food, is treating you like a god. No, you're his servant. Don't forget that. And it's a visceral thing. So I couldn't have come up with that on my own. Bhagavatam needed to do it. The Acharya needed to demonstrate it by personal, like mirroring that realization. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's true. Okay, so this is spiritual life. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that. It makes it very easy. Krishna is very kind. He accepts the method that his acharyas have accepted for one to come to him. So sometimes Srila Prabhupada will be criticized by very other kind of perspectives within Vaishnavism or Hinduism. And it's like, yeah, we don't care. Why do we not care? Because kintu praporya priya eva tasya. Because the first part of that verse in the Urvashtikam is Sakshat Daritvanastamasta Shastra Uttastata Bhavyate Visati. Sakshat Hari. The guru is Sakshat Hari, directly God. They don't become God. They don't merge, but they're as good as God. Why? The second half explains. Kintu Praporya Priya. Anybody know what Priya means?
Beautiful.
Priya, no?
Pretty.
Priya means beloved. Kintu Praporya Priya, because they're beloved of the Prabhu. Because God loves them so much. Why are they as good as God? Because God loves them that much. That's the qualification. That's what a guru is. They're functioning at such a high level that what they say, Krishna actually is like, okay, I'll accommodate that. Because you said it, right? We actually see this behavior in Bhagavatam. Krishna is like, I guess I gotta liberate and give my own darshan to these two sons, Nalakubera and Manigriva. Nalakubera and Manigriva of the two sons of Kubera. Why? Because Narada Muni said I would do that. I don't think they're so great. They're not so hot in my book. But my devotee, Narada Muni, said that I'm going to do this, so I'll do it. Right? My devotee, Brahma, said this to Hiranyakashipu, so I'm going to fulfill his word. My devotee said this in the Battle of Kurukshetra, that I'm not going to fight, so I'm not going to fight. And my devotee, Bhishma, said that I will fight, so I will fight. Even if it means breaking my other word, I'll do that. I'll break my own word to keep my devotee's word true. This is Krishna. This is the kind of person he is. So we want to find somebody who's very dear. And by their dearness, we don't care about objections. You don't like what Prabhupada's doing? Good. Good for you. We don't mind. You know? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they received death threats from Smartas, hard right-wing Orthodox Brahmins, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying, we got to be honest here. I know it's not politically correct, but Vaishnavism is more important than Brahmanism. Being a devotee is actually more important than this caste system that's become our inherited link to the tradition. It's more important than the Brahmins by birth who sit around eating meat and going and having sex and calling themselves sannyasis. It's more important than that. This is the fountainhead of all good qualities. People tried to kill him for that. That's how unpopular it was. People who live in Radhakund, the fakers, the ones who aren't the real devotees living in Radhakund, were just into the external. They tried to kill him. Bhaktisiddhanta had to go in his place because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very sick. Bhaktisiddhanta leveled a kind of, there was a debate. At the debate, he was so forceful, his opponent not just lost, he evacuated his bowels because he was so humiliated by Bhaktisiddhanta. Our acharyas have been so clear to defeat any criticism, because there are critics. You're going to find in the tradition of Hinduism, there are critics who don't like that we're giving the mantra away for free. They don't like this public chanting. They don't like that this, that, the other. You'll find that. You know, they had that in Mahaprabhu's time, and the Chand Kazi, who's a Muslim, was like neutral. He didn't care. He doesn't know anything. But who came? The Brahmins came, because they were annoyed that Mahaprabhu was giving the Maha Mantra to all these Shudras. They said, this is not okay. Our Shastra says you have to be a qualified Brahmin to chant mantra. And they're giving it to everybody. Women are chanting it. That's not appropriate. Shudras are chanting it. Muslims are chanting it. This is a problem. It's creating a disturbance in your Muslim-run Bengal state. So what happened? Shankazi came and shut it down. Why? Because the hard right didn't like it. So there's always going to be someone somewhere who has got something stuck somewhere that just makes it that they don't like what we're doing. And we don't care. Why? Because our guru has our heart. And that's good enough for us. Everyone else can figure out what their line is, who their teachers are. We don't mind. We have nothing. We have no criticism about that. You want to do that? Follow your teacher. We follow our teacher. Because we know they're dear to Krishna. And that's it. That's enough for us. And in following that, we find, oh, wow, actually, yeah, everything they're saying is in Shastra. And everything they've adjusted is just details. They've kept all the principles. But you can't figure that out right away. You actually have to follow, and then it becomes revealed. You actually have to be like, okay, I will try purifying my heart, and then I'll try studying the Shastra, and then you're like, oh wow, now I understand it. If I tried to understand the Shastra without purifying my heart, you know, we have generations of people who tried to read Bhagavad Gita without doing anything, no service. Where do they go? Not very far. So first you follow, and then you figure out. Don't figure out and then follow. Or worse, figure out and then follow me. That's material life. Hare Krishna. So now we'll take any comments, questions, reflections on first follow, then figure out. Anything you heard.
For dependence, right? And that we're just completely dependent, and there can be parts within our false ego that resist that.
Right.
And don't want that to be true. And when we allow that reality to be true, or we move through our own discomfort with it and follow a teacher, as you were speaking about so beautifully, things really shift in our hearts, and it's so deeply beautiful. And our job affirmation was around appreciating the holy name. And so I was thinking, as you were sharing so beautifully in class today, thank you, around appreciating our teachers and appreciating other devotees and seeing Krishna and seeing our gurus in every, and even in the dog, right?
Yeah.
In the dog and in each other, and really genuinely trying to serve each other, and how that does shift our hearts, as you were speaking about, and from there perhaps we'll have less resistance to being dependent.
Yeah.
But thank you for those beautiful reminders.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. In Krishna's instruction to Uddhava of you can pay obeisances even to a lowly dog, seeing the presence of Paramatma is an expansion of that appreciation principle.
Mhm.
And it really defeats the material tendency to try to make ourselves anything,
Mhm.
it short circuits that. And it's so insidious. The enjoying spirit is so insidious that, oh, you've done enough service. Now you can receive some adulation. Oh, you've been chanting for this long. You're a senior devotee now, or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, in the early 70s, in Muniradevi Dasi, Prabhupada said she was at the level of Bhava. In the early 70s, after a few years of intense service, but still just a few years, 2 decades later, 3 decades later, she said, the biggest thing to watch out for, the biggest danger in our movement is entitlement. That was her realization. From that vantage point, entitlement. Entitlement is just like a more solid form of false ego.
Mhm.
So all this about appreciating gratitude, it's just like ways to chip away at that, undermine it.
Mhm.
It's hard to be proud when you put your face in the ground.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Especially in Vrindavan, there's all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm down here. Where I belong. I like it. We have a reflection in chat from Madhuri Gopi, who had to leave. Haribol cannot stay long this morning, but just wanted to be here a little bit. Finding that comfort in receiving and learning. There is something very special about this path and how the acharyas share the teachings without compromising them, yet making them applicable for the current age. I'm extremely grateful for our current teachers who really take the time to explain the essence of truth while helping us to live in this world. It's something that I really value in this path. There is this level of fidelity. That's a great word. Love that word. Fidelity, without interjecting personal agenda. It's really something to pause and reflect about. The parampara is very magical. Thank you, Shami, and all of you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Great reflection. Fidelity comes from Latin, fidelis.
Mm.
You might know the Christian adeste fidelis. So come all you faithful. Fidelis means in that context faithful. Fidelis means loyal, basically. Loyal or faithful. Fidelity means like loyalty. So in material context, fidelity becomes like loyalty becomes a problem. It's like it becomes nepotism, right? I follow because they help me out materially, so I belong to this group. But in the spiritual context, it's the pure form of that, and this person is actually giving something real, substantial, and it's transcendental. And I'm not going to be the mode of fidelity is like I'm not going to disrespect what they're giving by like neglecting it ever. I always want to remember that I belong here and I'm with them I'm grateful. I'm not going to be like unchaste, right? It's another word that's used for disciples is chastity. A disciple is chaste because they're like, I don't fool around. You know? I don't play with other ideas, right? This is my guru. This is our teachings. I may study other ideas as a way of understanding philosophy, but I don't like give my heart. Look at a chaste wife or husband doesn't give their heart to somebody else. Like, no, my heart is here and only here. I don't play with that. You know, I don't care what other people have going on. That's their business. I'm here. And that saves so much trouble. So spiritually too, it's like this chastity or fidelity is like, yeah, they have my heart. I belong to them. And whatever I need, they can give me. I don't need to like dig in the library and find the most obscure book or, oh, I found a better guru. Now, sometimes you find that very unfortunate tendency. Sometimes people like graduate gurus, you know, like they trade in a guru for a better one. And it's just like spiritual death. It's coming from a place where they didn't have proper appreciation, right? I mean, even Srila Prabhupada, he had very advanced devotees who came to him. Like there was one devotee who took sannyas from Srila Prabhupada. I think it was Krishna Balaram Swami. He was Indian-bodied. Maharaj is not on the planet anymore, but he had taken initiation in a different sampradaya. I think it was the Madhvas or something. You know, and the Madhvas, like, they're like the grandfather branch of our Sampradaya, but this before Lord Chaitanya, the Madhvas existed, and they have like more of a conservative slant, different perspective on some things. And this devotee of the Madhva Sampradaya met Srila Prabhupada in England, I think London, and they're like, this is it. This is like better and bigger, and you should please be my guru. And Prabhupada said, well, you already have received Diksha. There's no need for me to give you Diksha. That will be an offense to your Diksha guru. I'm not going to overstep them. I will give you sannyas, and you are my disciple. I'm giving you shiksha, but I'm not going to overstep that guru because that's a bona fide thing that you have. You should respect them, and you should see what you're receiving from me and from Mahaprabhu through me as a fulfillment of that, not as a denial of that. So there's some deep etiquette there. So just a little bit about like this chastity and fidelity thing. It's such a beautiful thing, and I mean we see it. The example of like those who are very advanced, they have that. All that keeps going. Yeah. More reflections, questions, comments.
Thank you so much for such a great class. I wasn't going to be here this morning because I had a migraine. I don't get them, so I guess that's what that was. It was terrible. But I'm really glad that I did. Today is actually the anniversary of me asking for shelter.
Haribo!
Oh,
And I know it's your anniversary this weekend. Obviously, you're somewhere beautiful.
yours is better, more important.
What'd you say?
Your anniversary is more important.
I took shelter on May 12th, 2012.
Nice. Yeah.
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 I don't know what that is on the spiritual, like the lunar calendar, but I was in New Vrindavan. May 12th was just in 4 days. So we're also, well, I don't really celebrate it, but
I like that. Yeah, I
so
like
that's
that.
a nice
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah. But, so much of this has been, on my mind. And I'm also reading the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita.
Right.
And the first book is all about his childhood and his, college days and his, meeting his guru and, speaking about how, what's the word? It wasn't forceful wasn't the word, but like direct and I guess forceful. I can't think of the other word about how his guru was, and the death threats and everything. And it's interesting because I just feel like I'm reading a family anthology. Like I'm so honored to be able to read this about the Parampara, about our successors or our predecessors, and it's just. I don't know. It's just so touching and so moved. I'm so moved by the whole thing. And I know that I'm, extra squishy right now because I'm, pretty close to what's going to happen up in Brooklyn in June. So, but this was a beautiful class. And, it's interesting when you talked about, our in the material world, how we're like, oh, I want to be self-reliant. I can do it myself. I don't need a teacher. I could just read everything on my own. I don't need all this, and then how sweet it really is that when you get to that sweet surrender, when you're like, what was I thinking? Yeah, of course I need help. Like, all I want is help. And now that I have help, how can I serve that help? So it's just, it really is a very beautiful thing and it
Yeah,
was a very beautiful class today. So
thank you.
although I
Yeah,
still have a headache, I am so glad that I'm here. Thank you.
we're so glad too. Yeah, we traveled for many hours last night, and part of us was like, well, do we really want to do this? But
That was Kishori. Shami wanted to all along.
no, part of me was also like, oh, but it would be so much easier not to. And I would say very clearly, yeah, I'm glad we did, because it was Prabhupada's idea to do this,
Mhm.
which he received. And we're just trying to follow, and here we are getting the blessings, and that's why we feel so good at this moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember, yeah, fidelity. I remember one time somebody who had some ideas, their ideas were apasampradayic. They didn't exist in the sampradaya. They were speculated ideas. Their idea was that, well, Prabhupada is so empowered and so special that everybody from for now on forever should just take initiation from him, and nobody should ever act as a guru after him. This is called Ritvikism, and everyone can just be acting on behalf of Prabhupada. But it's this weird idea that it's like, well, first of all, that's never happened before in any context. It's offensive to Prabhupada. You're such a great master that no one can ever be qualified as a master from your students. You're so good at what you do that no one you ever taught can ever like share what you're sharing. Yeah, that's a really backhanded compliment. So the idea is absurd. But they said, they presented this argument like, wouldn't you like to be Prabhupada's disciple? And I thought about it. I was like, no, I wouldn't. I would not like to be Prabhupada's disciple. I'm so happy being a grandson of Prabhupada. I don't want to jump over what I have. If Prabhupada came to me and said, "Are you happy?" I'd be like, "I'm thrilled. I'm so happy having you as a grandfather. You have such a worthy son who's functioning as my guru, and I'm connected to you because of that. I don't want anything else. Why would I want to like disrespect what I have? So I could like, why not just So it's very subtle. Like one should understand properly like what following is. I don't even in the name of following, one can be offensive. It's like, oh yeah, I just follow Prabhupada. It's like, really? But if that means you're disrespecting other devotees, then you don't actually follow Prabhupada at all. So there's always like this way in which the false ego can assert itself. Still. So yeah, and then the other day we had somebody criticize our kirtan because we didn't explain. They said this could be cultural. This is bordering on cultural appropriation because you're white people and you're presenting mantras outside of lineage. And we're like, well, first of all, I'm not white, but second of all, we're very much in the lineage, and we find this sometimes within Hinduism or any religious tradition in a formal sense, is that they don't understand Mahaprabhu's mood because it is so. Yeah, here it is. Here's the biggest gift, and everybody can chant it on the street while you're chugging your whiskey tonic. You can chant Hare Krishna while the kirtan party is walking by you. Who's ever qualified somebody to do that? You could be eating cow and drinking alcohol, and like, the kirtan party comes down. You're like, oh, Hare Krishna. You just chanted something that's more sacred than what the Brahmins chant. Like, who does that? Well, Mahaprabhu does, and we're just following him, right? So we don't really care for those critiques. We don't really respect those critiques because we know they've already been answered generation after generation, and we can answer them ourselves. So it's yeah. Anyway, I'm just kind of sharing some anecdotes of my reflections on what it's like to be grateful like Tanya's grateful.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and we're so proud of Tanya
Um,
for coming to this stage of being ready to receive initiation. It's such a big thing,
So proud.
such a very important milestone. And it's not just one thing. It happens. There's so many stages. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about 5 different stages of initiation, and yeah, begins with like realizing I'm done with this whole material thing I've been doing. I feel sorry about that, and I want to do the spiritual thing. You've begun your initiation.
yeah, it's overwhelming, and I still don't feel worthy, but here we are. So
Don't let it end on the way of initiation. Initiation means initial.
Yeah.
Going. Jai. Nancy, do you want to share anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so very much and wonderful class. And I kept on thinking about how, you know, that was gratitude for finding the Vermont Sangha, finding you as a teacher in Kashuri, and then the group of devotees that assemble for our teaching. It really has helped me quite a bit, and it's just beautiful. And I do everything that's been said, that humility, that kindness, the fact that you're here. When you were in India, I did this by myself. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to do it by myself. And Tanya did it for us, but then she went on vacation, so I was here all by myself. And it's like, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
It isn't as fulfilling as having the wonderful
Yeah.
devotees with me. But you know, I am as I have as my guru knows, I am the defiant bhakta, and it's erosion. I'm eroding some of the defiance, and that's a beautiful thing. So thank you so very much.
I think we should. Yeah, Jiva Goswami, he points out in his Sandarbhas that even pure devotees would prefer to chant and hear with other devotees if they have the choice. They'll seek it out. That's why we see in Bhagavatam, you know, Shukadev could have just stayed somewhere and thought about the Bhagavatam instead of speaking it. Why does he do it? Because it's more delicious. So, like he's having like this Bhagavatam class, and Parikshit, you know, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we want to be in this on this conversation because the more the merrier, and even if you're already perfect. So there's at that level. What to speak about our level, we have, you know, we have our ceiling on how much taste we get from hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, having a little kirtan, reading Bhagavatam. When we get together, it gets better. So, right back at you. We're deeply grateful that you're so steady. Such a gift. You know, I'll say as a teacher, I spend a lot of my time teaching. My favorite thing is a steady student. It's like the greatest gift. Hare Krishna. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Now let's offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees. They're just like desire trees, can fulfill the desires of our full of compassion for all fallen conditions. So, Jai Vansha Kalpatarubhishya Kripa Santyevicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Hare Krishna. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful anniversary for both of you. And for you too, Tanya.